Having completed all the 29 shlokas of chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, it's time to summarize. In the 5th chapter, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, at the very outset, Lord Krishna compares Karma Sannyasa, that is renunciation of karma, renunciation of action, and Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is renunciation of the fruits of action. So he compares Karma Sannyasa and Karma Yoga and explains to Arjuna which one is best suited. In continuation, the Lord explains the marks of a Sankhya Yogi and his glories, and then the marks of a Karma Yogi and his glories. Lord Krishna then goes on to explain the importance of jnana, that is knowledge in spirituality. The Lord then touches upon devotion and meditation. In the beginning of chapter 5, we find that Arjuna is still confused and he asks Krishna which path is best suited for him. So he tells him, Lord Krishna, that tell me that one path which is good for me. Lord Krishna in reply, he tells that one can choose either of the paths, that is Sannyasa Yoga or Sankhya Yoga or Karma Yoga. He says that both Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga, both are good, both the paths are good, but Karma Yoga is better because it's easier to follow. A sannyasi renounces action, but a karma yogi renounces the fruits of action. So both the paths lead to the same destination. This message is clearly explained in Shloka 5. Yat sankyai prapyate sthanam tadyogairapi gamyate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sa pashyati. That is, the state reached by a Sankhya Yogi is reached by a Karma Yogi also. Both of them, they are able to reach the same destination. And it's very important that we should understand this truth. Only a person who is able to understand this truth has true perception, has true vision, has true knowledge. Lord Krishna then explains that Sannyasa Yoga or Sankhya Yoga can be practiced perfectly only by those whose minds are pure. And this purification of mind can be achieved only by practicing Karma Yoga. So jumping directly to Sannyasa Yoga is not advisable. Karma Yoga is a must. It is important for the majority of the population. Ordinary people like us, for us, Karma Yoga is best suited. 5th chapter, Shri Krishna describes at length the characteristics of a Karma Yogi. A Karma Yogi who performs his prescribed duties free from raga dvesha and also without any interest in the fruits of action, with absolute dedication. He also has the same attitude as that of a sannyasi. This Karma Yogi who practices nishkama karma acquires knowledge in course of time. Krishna calls such a dedicated Karma Yogi who practices nishkama karma as a Nitya Sannyasi, that is eternal Sannyasi who moves past the cycle of birth and death to attain moksha, that is to become in union with the Brahman. So a Karma Yogi is also referred to as a Nitya Sannyasi by Lord Krishna. Also, one must understand that a Karma Yogi who is a knower of the truth, maybe performing many activities like seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, sleeping, etc. But he knows pretty well that it is the senses that engage the material objects and it is not him. So he knows pretty well that he is not the doer of these actions. So his body is performing various actions, but he never considers himself as the doer and hence he is absolved from all sins. So a true Karma Yogi, he performs various activities through body, mind, intellect and senses, giving up attachment, and he does all these. He practices this nishkama karma for self-purification. So such a Karma Yogi dedicates all his actions to Brahman, that is to the Supreme. So this is explained in Shloka 10. Brahmanyadaya karmani Sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyate na sapapena padmapatramivambhasa. That is, this Karma Yogi who dedicates all actions to the Supreme, giving up attachment, is not tainted by sins. And his attitude is like, just as a lotus leaf which is very much in water, but it does not get wet by water. Likewise, this Karma Yogi also, even though he is performing all the actions, day in and day out he is performing all the actions, but he is not affected by the fruits of action because he doesn't consider himself as the doer. Then further talking about the glories of a karma yogi in sloka 13, Lord Krishna tells, Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. So in this shloka, Shri Krishna tells that the self-controlled yogi who has mentally renounced all actions while happily residing in the nine-gated city, that is the physical body is referred to as the nine-gated city. So this sannyasi, he resides in the physical body, but while performing all actions in this physical body, while leading his life, day-to-day life in this physical body, he considers himself as neither acting. So he neither acts nor causes others to act. Lord Krishna then describes the marks of a true sannyasi, and in this process he removes all the misconceptions we have about a sannyasi. So one must know the difference between one who has just entered the sannyasa ashram, but he does not have the attitude of a sannyasi. And one must truly know who is a true sannyasi. The literal meaning of a sannyasi is one who has renounced action, that is, renounced all worldly activities. So this sannyasi, having renounced all worldly activities, devotes himself to knowledge acquisition. He dedicates his entire life to knowledge acquisition. So a sannyasi who has acquired true knowledge, he gets liberated. Talking about the glories of such a sannyasi, who's truly knowledgeable, who has acquired knowledge, Lord Krishna tells that sages who are devoid of all sins, unaffected by dualities, that is, they remain the same, they are equipoised when faced with sorrow or happiness. They do not jump when they get something which they desire, and neither do they get totally dejected when faced with something sorrowful. So they are unaffected by dualities. They are totally self-controlled, and such sannyasis are very compassionate also. They are truly concerned for the spiritual well-being of others. They attain union with the Brahman. They also know, the sannyasis know that the pleasures that sense objects bring, they have seeds of sorrow in them, and hence such sannyasis, they do not relish in these. A true sannyasi is able to withstand the impulse of desire and anger before casting his body. That is, in this life itself, as he is leading his life, in this life, before casting off his physical body, that is, before he dies, he is able to get true peace. The sage who experiences happiness within, that is, that sage, that sannyasi who's introverted, who's focused on the Atma, who experiences happiness within, and he delights within, he delights with the when he meditates, he is focused on the Atma, he is happy, he gets Ananda, and he gets illumined in meditation. He realizes Brahman and attains liberation. Then next, Lord Krishna talks about the importance of knowledge. Lord Krishna in Sloka 16 points out that gaining knowledge destroys ignorance. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashitamatmanah tesham adityavat jnanam prakashayati tatparam. So when the sun is covered with clouds, we are unable to see its true brilliance. So when the cloud passes, we see the sun shines. Likewise, Atma Jnana removes ignorance and reveals to the spiritual aspirant the supreme Brahman. So Lord Krishna urges us to gain knowledge and remove the ignorance within us, which is the cause of all sufferings. In Shloka 18, the Lord explains how a truly learned and knowledgeable person has Samadarshan. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. A learned one with true knowledge sees all beings as the same. He sees the divinity of the Atma in all beings, be it a learned and humble Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, or a dog-eating human. All are the same. All are equal to him. And then talking about the true glories of a knowledgeable person, Lord Krishna tells that a truly knowledgeable and liberated person finds unlimited happiness and eternal bliss by concentrating on the Supreme. Such a wise man controls the urge of the material senses and he is able to suppress desire and anger, and he finds true happiness. Such a person, he is equipoised, he is endowed with the vision of equality, and he gets liberated even while living in this world. A knowledgeable person whose intellect is absorbed in the Supreme, established in the Supreme with committed faith, and who has taken refuge with the ultimate, he is truly liberated. His sins are removed by knowledge, and he is truly liberated. In the closing shlokas of chapter 5, Sri Krishna talks about devotion and meditation. In shloka 27 and 28, Lord Krishna lays out a very powerful method to achieve inner peace and liberation. So, what are the various steps of meditation? Turn inwards to shut off all the external sensory distractions. What should the posture be? Sit erect and focus and concentrate between the eyebrows. Equalize the breath, that is prana, which is the outgoing breath, and apana, which is the incoming breath. Control all the senses, mind and intellect, and become free from fear, desire, anger. A spiritual aspirant who practices this meditation perfectly is eternally free and liberated. And then in the last shloka, Lord Krishna, that is the 29th shloka of this chapter, of chapter 5, Lord Krishna tells us that by knowing me as the receiver of all sacrifices and as the supreme lord of all the worlds and as an intimate friend of all beings, a wise man, a knowledgeable man attains peace. Next chapter, chapter 6, is entitled Dhyana Yoga. So, in this chapter, initially Lord Krishna talks about the marks of a liberated person, a person who has realized the soul, realized his Atma. And then he gives a detailed description of Dhyana Yoga and the question, how do you control your mind? That is at length discussed by Lord Krishna. And then finally, in the concluding verses, that is from the 37th to the 47th verses, Lord Krishna discusses the fate of one who falls from the yoga. And talking about this person's fate, he further talks about the glories of Dhyana Yoga.